to discard the entire assembly, which was one of the reasons for the Pentium Pro's relatively low production yield and high cost. All versions of the chip were expensive, those with 1024 kilobytes being particularly so, since it acquired two 512 kilobytes cache dies as well as the processor die. Available models. Pentium Pro clock speeds were 150, 166, 180 or 200 MHz with a 60 or 66 MHz external bus clock. Some users chose to overclock their Pentium Pro chips, with the 200 MHz version often being run at 233 MHz, the 180 MHz version often being run at 200 MHz, and the 150 MHz version often being run at 166 MHz. The kit was popular in symmetric multiprocessing configurations, with dual and quad SMP server and workstation setups being commonplace. In Intel's family /model stepping scheme, the Pentium Pro is Family 6, Model 1, and its Intel product code is 80521. Clock, megahertz. Bus, megahertz. L2 cache, KB, max TDP, W, 15066512351.7206635512337.91024444. Fabrication. The process used to fabricate the Pentium Pro processor die and its separate cache memory die changed, leading to a combination of processes used in the same package. The 133 MHz Pentium Pro prototype processor die was fabricated in a 0.6 micrometer BICMOS process. 15, 16. The 150 MHz Pentium Pro processor die was fabricated in a 0.50 micrometer by CMOS process. 16, 9. The 166, 180, and 200 MHz Pentium Pro processor die was fabricated in a 0.35 micrometer BICMOS process. 16, 9. The 256 kilobytes L2 cache die was fabricated in a 0.50 micrometer by CMOS process. 16, 9. The 512 and 1024 kilobytes L2 cache die was fabricated in a 0.35 micrometer by CMOS process. 16, 9. Packaging. The Pentium Pro, up to 512 kilobytes cache, is packaged in a ceramic multichip module, MCM. The MCM contains two underside cavities in which the microprocessor die and its companion cache die reside. The dies are bonded to a heat slug, whose exposed top helps the heat from the dies to be transferred more directly to cooling apparatus such as a heat sink. The dies are connected to the package using conventional wire bonding. The cavities are capped with a ceramic plate. The Pentium Pro with 1 MB of cache uses a plastic MCM. Instead of two cavities, there is only one, in which 3 dies reside, bonded to the package instead of a heat slug. The cavities are filled in with epoxy. The MCM has 387 pins, of which approximately half are arranged in a pin grid array, PGA, and half in an interstitial pin grid array, IPGA. The packaging was designed for socket 8. Upgrade paths. In 1998, the 300/333 MHz Pentium 2 overdrive processor for socket 8 was released. Featuring double L1 and 512 kilobytes of full-speed L2 cache, it was produced by Intel as a drop-in upgrade option for owners of Pentium Pro systems. However, it only supported two-way glueless multiprocessing, not four-way or higher, which did not make it a usable upgrade for quad processor systems. These specially packaged Pentium i Xeon processors were used to upgrade ASI Red, which became the first computer to reach the teraflops performance mark with the Pentium Pro processor and then the first to exceed 2 teraflops after the upgrade to Pentium II Xeon processors. As slot 1 motherboards became prevalent, several manufacturers released socket adapters, such as the Pentium M2020, Asus CP6S1, Tecrum P6SL1, and the Abit KP6. The sockets allowed Pentium Pro processors to burst with slot 1 motherboards. The Intel 440FX chipset explicitly supported both Pentium Pro and Pentium I processors, but the Intel 440BX and later slot 1 chipsets did not explicitly support the Pentium Pro, so the Socket 8 sockets did not see wide use. Sockets, in the form of Socket 372 slot 1 adapters, saw renewed popularity when Intel introduced Socket 370 Celeron and Pentium 3 processors. Core specifications. Pentium Pro. L1 cache, 8 KB. Data, instructions. L2 cache, 256, 512 KB. 1 die, or 1024 KB. 2 512 KB dies, in a multi-chip module clocked up CPU speed. Socket 8. Front side bus, 60 and 66 MHz. V-core, 3.13.3V. Fabrication, 0.50 micrometer or 0.35 by CMOS, 17. Clock rate, 150, 166, 180, 200 MHz, capable of 233 MHz on some motherboards. First release, November 1995. Pentium II Overdrive. Pentium II Overdrive with heatsink removed. Flip chip disk shoots core ace on the left. 512 KB caches on the right. 18, L1 cache, 16 KB, data and instructions. L2 cache, 512 KB external chip on CPU module clocked at CPU speed. Socket 8. Multiplier, locked at 5. Front side bus, 60 and 66 MHz. V-core, 3.13.3V, has onboard voltage regulator. Fabrication, 0.25 micrometer. Clock rate, based on the Deschutes generation Pentium II. First release, 1997. Supports MMX technology. Bus and multiprocessor capabilities. The Pentium Pro used GTL plus signaling in its front side bus. 19. The Pentium Pro could be used by itself on up to 4-way designs. 8-way Pentium Pro computers were also built, but these used multiple buses. 20. The design of the Pentium Pro bus was influenced by FutureBus, the Intel IPX 432 bus, and elements of the Intel i960 bus. 21. FutureBus has been intended as an advanced bus to replace VME-bus used with the Motorola 68000 from the late 1970s, but it stagnated in standardization committee for more than a decade if you count all the twists and turns. 21. Intel's IPX 432 initiative was also a commercial failure, but in the process they did learn how to build a split transaction bus to support a cashless multiprocessor system. The i960 had further developed the split transaction IPX 432 bus to include a cache coherency protocol, ending up with the features highly reminiscent of the original FutureBus ambitions. 21. The lead architect of i960 was superscalarity specialist Fred Pollock, who was also the lead engineer of the Intel IAPX 432 and the lead architect of the i686 chip, the Pentium Pro. He was no doubt intimately familiar with this history. The Pentium Pro was designed to include the 4-way SMP split transaction cache coherent bus as a mandatory feature of every chip produced. 21. This also served to deny competition access to the socket to produce cloned processors. 21. While the Pentium Pro was not successful as a machine for the masses, due to poor 16-bit support for Windows 95, it did become highly successful in the file server space due to its advanced, integrated bus design. 21. Introducing many advanced features that had formerly only been available in the pricey workstation segment into the commodity marketplace. Pentium Pro /6th generation competitors: AMD K5 and K6, Cyrix 6x86 and Me, IDT Win chip. Intel 5P Pentium coexisted with Pentium Pro for several years. See also List of Intel Pentium 2 microprocessors. List of Intel Pentium Pro microprocessors. References. 1 Fisher.
Good. Should maybe download this list later, or I should do it now, but it's soon 11 p.m. I will take a break and start upload this. I think I will download this to list of pen. I need this for later if I'm buying some old Pentium gamer computers, Pentium computers. So that's Pentium Pro. I will go upload this. Yes, maybe I'll read one more.